Hey everyone, and welcome back to Over the Wire Natas. Today we're looking at Natas 14. And I already have the password from last time and the getflag script copied over, so we're ready to go basically. And I'm just going to log in here. So you can see we have a typical login form here with a username and password, as well as a login button, and not much else to go off of here. We can try basic admin for the username and password, but we're going to get access denied. We can try admin password, but seemingly same thing. So it seems we're going to need to find another way in here. And typically when you think of web forms like this, especially authentication forms with the username and password, we can think about SQL injection, and we can sort of test, any of these forms here to see if they're vulnerable for SQL injection. And the way you can typically do that, well, at least quickly, if we just put a single quote here for the username, try to log in, we're still getting access denied, or we could try a double quotation. You can see we're getting some sort of SQL error here, specifically MySQLi. So what this tells us is that double quote sort of broke the backend SQL query that was being made, meaning this is probably vulnerable. We just need to figure out how. And to speed this up here, we can sort of look at the source code of the web page. You can see, so we have here, we're making a connection to a MySQLi or SQL database on localhost. So it's sort of, the database is hosted on the same server here, and it's providing a username and seemingly a password that is censored. So it's making that connection to that database, and it's grabbing this Natas 14 database, and then it's making this query here. So we have this query variable, which is a SQL query, and you can see select star or anything from users, so the users table. So when this query runs, it's going to be selecting the entire users table to basically search for a record where the username column is equal to whatever the sort of parameter that we give it in our query string. So that's going to be the username that we fill in that form. Same sort of thing with the password argument that we provide in our query string. And this is really vulnerable because there's no sanitization going on here, and we're basically just injecting whatever user supplied input we provide into this backend SQL query here. So this is just like a classic example of a vulnerable SQL injection vulnerability here. So if we go back here, we already know we're going to be using that double quote to sort of break out. So let's just put, admin, doesn't really matter. We don't even need anything there, but we'll just close that out with the double quote, and then we'll provide our or 1 equals 1. And then again, because we don't want to break the rest of the query, we're going to provide that hashtag or pound symbol. And let's try that. And there you can see we're getting the password. Just like that, that's all it really took in order to sort of exploit and break out of that query in order to provide our own sort of logic that returns true, so we could get in basically. But if that's still not making total sense, let's go over to the getflag script, because it looks like we can actually turn on some sort of debug option to show the actual query, which might make more sense. But we can do that with our query string or our query parameter by adding this debug set to, I guess, anything. So anyways, let's try that. Let's go over to Sublime Text. I'm going to copy that password again for Natas 14, update the credentials. We're not going to need these variables here, so let's just print out response.text. And again, we're not uploading anything, so we can just take out files. And for data, this is actually where we're going to put in our username and password. So let's just do that with username. We'll just hardcode in admin again, just so we can make sense of this. And then for password, we will just set that to whatever, admin as well. And I think that's good. We can just run that. And you can see we're getting access denied, so that's fine. Let's add in that debug parameter within the actual URL here, and we can do that with debug. And then I guess we can just set it to true. I don't think it really matters. It just has to exist. Perfect. Okay, let's make this wider. You can see it's actually echoing out or printing out the actual query that we're making, just to sort of teach us and sort of so we can better understand what's going on in the back end. So you can see this is the actual query that's running. So it's selecting anything from the users table where username equals admin, kind of like how we just went through, and password equals admin. So let's see what happens if we throw in a double quote, and we can do that basically. Let's just change the original quotes to single quote, just so we can throw in that double quote there. And let's try running that. Okay, you can see we're getting a similar type of error that we got in the browser, because the actual query that's running, you can see, is sort of being broken here because username is set in double quotes. We're adding a third double quote, or, we're adding an additional one here to sort of break the rest of that command there. So perfect, let's continue to build onto this and put in our hashtag to basically comment out the rest of the string there. And you can see basically this part is all getting commented out. So we're not getting the error this time, we're just not getting in because there's no, valid user there. But if you remember, now that we have full control over this value, we can just inject sort of our own statement that evaluates to true. So again, or 1 equals 1, Let's just run that. And you can see, again, we're getting the password because we were able to sort of run the following query here where username is empty. Doesn't matter because we're also checking if 1 is equal to 1. Again, the most common SQLi payload you're going to see, or 1 equals 1, which we're running to basically evaluate this is true. We're getting a result returned, and we're able to sort of get a successful login. Again, just because this is the most common, payload that you're going to see, I'm just going to prove that it doesn't really matter. We can just put in, 2 plus 6. Well, that's going to equal 8, which will also evaluate true, hopefully. And there you can see we're getting the password because, 2 plus 6 does in fact equal 8. You can make it as complicated as you want as long as it returns true, which obviously 1 equals 1 is the most common you're going to see. And again, that's sort of why 1 equals 1 is the most common because, it doesn't get much easier than that. If we put 1 equals 2, well, that's false. So we're not going to get in. We're going to get access denied. So just hopefully that makes things a little bit more clear. You can see why we're actually just typing this in, why this sort of makes sense as our sort of payload here, our exploit. But anyways, yeah, let's extract out this password. It shouldn't be too hard. So instead of just printing out response.txt, we can use our regular expression module as we've been doing. And I'll just sort of skip ahead to this part because we've done it so many times already. So again, this should work. We're looking for password for Natas 15 is. We're basically grabbing or extracting out anything within that, and then we're just closing it out with that break tag or that line break tag in HTML, and that should be good enough. Yep, perfect. See, there you go. You can see we're getting the password. And this challenge is pretty much done. Let's just test this out to make sure we can log into the next one and call it a day. Looks good. We'll send that out to Natas 14, and hopefully this works. You see we're logged into Natas 15, and it looks like another form for a username login. Not seeing a password there, so that should be interesting. We'll see what happens in the next video. But as always, thank you again for watching, and take care.